Hello and welcome to episode 2 of Barbarian Law, the YouTube channel. My name is Kareem Eshkor. I'm the managing partner. And just before we start, I'd like to say that this does not constitute legal advice. Please speak to a lawyer or a financial planner before making any life decisions. So today we are talking about taxation in European football. This history of this started back with the creation of the European Union in 1993, where their goal was to create an integral single market to give freedom of movement between workers, goods, people, services. And in 1995, the landmark case of was the Bosman ruling, and the case involved Jean-Marc Bosman, a player in the Belgian Football League, and he won the right to move teams without paying a transfer fee. Previously, at the end of your contract, you'd be forced to pay a transfer fee to the team even though you were leaving without a contract. In 1981, the UK developed a tribunal to negotiate transfer fees between clubs and players at the end of their contract. But after this ruling, they ruled that players can leave a team for free at the end of the season without paying a transfer fee. So this had the effect of increasing the leverage of players, and they were able to negotiate contracts with even though if they had 6 months left on their contract. You see an example of this with Lorenzo Insigne, who just signed with Toronto FC despite having a contract with Napoli to the end of the season. So fast forward into 2005, and in Spain, they introduced something that became known as the Beckham Law, named after David Beckham, the international soccer star. So between 2005 and 2010, foreign workers who came to Spain were charged at a tax rate of 24.75% rather than the domestic rate of 43%. This had the effect of attracting many international soccer stars to Madrid and Barcelona. For Madrid, they signed players like Luis Figo, Ruud van Nistelrooy, Fabio Cannavaro, Kaká, and then, of course, Cristiano Ronaldo. Whereas Barcelona, during this time, they signed Samuel Eto'o, Deco, Ronaldinho, and Zlatan Ibrahimovic, Thierry Henry, to name a few. So while the rule was abolished or voted out by Parliament in 2010, Cristiano Ronaldo was grandfathered in until 2015. In 2014, December of 2014, Ronaldo decided to sell his image rights for the next 5 years. He sold his image rights from 2015 to 2020 for 65 million euros. This was wrong for a number of reasons. You can't declare income for future years in a year because you like the tax rate of that year. Just because 2014 had a tax rate of 24% doesn't mean you can declare income for the next 5 years. That's not good accounting. So what he did was he sent $63 million to a company called Adifor, which was based in the British Virgin Islands, and another 11 million which he declared as Spanish income for his marketing rights. So what are image rights? Image rights are commercial value for a player's likeness. This is including his brand. So his brand of Ronaldo has commercial value. So the question becomes, is this foreign income or is this domestic income? So the question for Ronaldo becomes, if he's wearing shoes, Nike shoes in Spain, is that money that's being earned in Spain? You'd think yes. However, there's an argument to be made that because he's such a global superstar, that income could be sourced globally. And so that's where the question of tax avoidance and tax evasion comes into play. Creative tax lawyers and accountants, they can bend the rules so that they are sourcing the income in jurisdictions that are more favorable. In European Union, Ireland has a tax rate of 12%, right? So 12% in European Union is the lowest, versus in the Caribbean, there's tax rates of 0% in places like Panama and the British Virgin Islands. However, companies like Nike and Adidas which are publicly traded companies, they're generally squeamish about sending large amounts of money to the Caribbean. So part of what happens is you create an image rights company, an IRC, and you base that in a jurisdiction, and so the money gets hidden through these opaque structures and eventually gets rerouted back into Swiss bank accounts because the banks in Switzerland have strong rules and they don't tell anyone anything. So next, we talk about the role of agents. There are a number of super agents, including Jorge Mendes and Mino Raiola, who have I written about. Jorge Mendes is the agent who represents players like Cristiano Ronaldo, Jose Mourinho, Angel Di Maria, Diego Costa, and Mino Raiola, he represents players like Zlatan Ibrahimovic and Paul Pogba. When Paul Pogba transferred from Juventus to Manchester United for 89 million, Mino Raiola earned himself a commission of 41 million. Right, $41 million, 41 million pounds for a transfer. It's a lot of money. These days, there's more money to be made in the transfer of players rather than owning a club. If you look at Barcelona, they have millions and hundreds of millions of dollars or euros in debt, right? And so there's a question about how are we going to make money. If Jorge Mendes, he's now partnered with a company called Fosun International, which is a Chinese group of investors worth over $10 billion. And they now are participating in the third-party ownership of players. And so you see that Jorge Mendes clients, a lot of them in the Portuguese league, they're purchased by teams abroad, by leagues abroad, including Bruno Fernandes or Joao Felix. And so the ownership of these rights can be very valuable. The image rights of a player includes their social media, their merchandise. So a lot of times these are very valuable. Then you consider the effect of FIFA Fair Play. FIFA Fair Play is a rule that it limits how much money teams can spend without earning the revenue. So a way that teams get around this is by overpaying for sponsorship. Manchester City, for example, they got sponsored by Abu Dhabi, and their sponsorship was valued at about 5 million euros, but the sponsors, they were paying over 40 million euros. And much more egregious was the case of PSG, who is sponsored by Qatar Airways. The contracts were independently valued at 6 million euros, and Qatari Airways was paying 100 million euros for these sponsorships. And the next year, they increased to 145 million euros. The increase of 45 million euros from one year to year was likely attributed to the arrival of Mbappe and Neymar to PSG. So the state was sponsoring these transfers. It was clearly a violation of FIFA Fair Play, and both Manchester City and PSG were reprimanded by UEFA. However, the UEFA lawyers, when faced in court with the high-priced lawyers of Manchester City and Paris, they had no chance in court, and the arguments never even got back to a substantive discussion. They were dropped from the beginning. Next, I'd like to talk about Ronaldo Economics. So Ronaldo, he went from Madrid to Juventus in a transfer worth over 100 million euros. Why did he do this? Because Italy made a rule that said foreign income earners, those who have spent 9 of the last 10 years outside of Italy, they only have to pay a 100,000 euro fee for their foreign income. The rest of their foreign income goes untaxed. For a global superstar such as Ronaldo, this meant that he no longer had to hide his income in foreign shell companies. He was free to declare his income in Italy. Why did Italy do this? Because his 30 million euro salary from Juventus was taxed at 43%, so that meant about 12 million euros of tax revenue for the Italian government. And so Ronaldo was incentivized to move countries. A lot of migration is attributed to the taxation of players, right? Countries with high tax rates, they often lose talent at the highest levels to countries with lower tax rates. You see this in Canada, where people leaving, I don't even know what the tax rate in Canada is. I'm not in that tax bracket for the highest income earners. I think it's over 48 to 50%. And countries like just south of us, like in the U.S., in Texas, there's a 0% income tax rate, and same as Florida. You look at Kyle Lowry; he enjoyed his year in his year in Tampa Bay because he was making 0%. He was paying 0% income tax for home games while he was in Tampa Bay, versus coming back to Canada. He didn't want to come back to pay those 50% tax rates. So I guess that's why he moved from Miami to Toronto. Next, if you look at the agents and their role, a lot of what they do, you could argue that is done on behalf of the players. But what they're doing now is getting the clubs to pay their expenses, because the clubs can then attribute their services as an intangible asset on the balance sheet versus a salary expense that's going to cost them and the FIFA fair play calculations. So agents at that point become recruiters for top talent. So if you need an agent, you can call me. I'm happy to represent you. So if you know any good soccer players, please give them my information, and we're going to get Canada on the map of big soccer stars. If anyone knows Alphonso Davies or Eustachio, any of those guys, please call me, and see you next time on episode 3 of Barbarian Law. Don't forget to like, subscribe, share, and tell your friends. Thank you.